Assalamu alaikum guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about something more personal. I've been asked quite a bit, actually ever since I've converted I've been asked this, but especially since I started this YouTube channel, I've been asked a little bit about my convert story, how I came to Islam, what I was before I converted, all those sorts of things. And although I don't see anything very special or significant in this story, I do understand that when people hear it, it's either inspirational or, it's just interesting to them and they just want to understand how somebody found Shia Islam, especially when converts more prevalently convert to Sunni Islam. So I thought I'd just go over a little bit about my past, I guess, what brought me to Islam, and kind of where I am today. Inshallah you enjoy it. So I was actually born in Canada. My parents are originally from India, from New Delhi, India, so I am Indian. But I grew up and was raised in Canada. My family was Hindu, so they identified as Hindu. Although we weren't too religious in the sense, it was a little bit societal Hindu. That's kind of like what you declared yourself to be. We did go to the temple often. We did do prayers at the house once in a while on special events like Diwali and stuff like that. But we weren't too involved in like the community, the mandir and stuff like that. So when I was in university, I was really interested in religion. So I always knew that there was a God. But it had never become a real focal point in my life until I probably turned 20 years old. I just knew I was interested. And Hinduism, I didn't know too much about it. I wanted to learn more. And so I was actually doing my science degree at university, but I was minoring in philosophy. And within that, I took a lot of philosophy of religion courses. At the time, I had a lot of friends from all different religions. Like some of my best friends were Sikh, and also Ismaili. I also had a few Sunni, Shia, and Hindu friends, Christians, so it was all mixed up. So it was really tolerant society, everyone was free to practice. So as I started taking some courses in university, I actually enrolled in quite a few Christian theology courses. I took a philosophy of Hinduism, in which I learned so much about the religion, stuff that I had not been taught when I was younger, and I found it really, really interesting. And so I was learning from the Christian perspective, some of the fundamentals of Christianity. I was learning from the Hindu perspective, and I also was learning from the Islamic perspective. But of course, the Islamic courses were more geared towards the majority sect Muslims, which were Sunni Muslims. I did know there were Sunni and Shia Muslims because I grew up around both, and my schools had both. So it was interesting to me to see that the Sunni majority school of thought was being taught. So what sort of happened after university, I had graduated, I had all this information, but I wasn't really sure what to do with it. I kind of didn't really think about it much for a while as I was studying. And then when I went on to do my master's degree, that's kind of when I had more time, I guess, to sit down and think about it. And I had a few Shia friends. Between having friends who were really influential, people around me who were really influential, and this background desire to become closer to Allah, or to God at the time, I think it just kind of pushed me into that direction. And I remember one day I was talking to one of my friends and they messaged me and I was like, because I was interested, I was like, I was just reading this article on this imam, and I can't remember which imam it was. It wasn't one of the imams of the Ahlul Bayt. And they said to me, you know what, Google Imam Hussein. Just do that for me. Just Google Imam Hussein. And because I was already interested, I was like, okay, I'll Google Imam Hussein. And I did. And that moment is what kind of led me to understand what happened at Karbala. And once you start, I was Googling on Wikipedia, once you start, there's link after link that just traces you back. So I read about Karbala, then I started to kind of understand about what happened at the Prophet's death. I learned about his family, and I was really interested because this was history. It wasn't something just made up. It was history. So you could trace it back, and that's what really interested me. So I cannot really put into words how this happened. But one day, after reading and learning, it was maybe 6 months after when I started actually dedicating myself to reading, I was at the mosque and I found myself telling my friend I want to take my shahada. And I remember this day because I was really scared, but it was I didn't care. So I went, the imam kind of passed me the mic, I took my shahada. I don't even remember the exact date, to be honest, it's all a blur. And the next day after that, I started wearing hijab. And I had been working at like a professional organization, and I came in the next day wearing hijab, and it was probably like the hardest day of my life because it was so awkward. But everyone was really cool. They were just like, oh. And then I'm like, yeah, I like chose to become Muslim, so I'm wearing this now. And they were all really cool with it. The hardest thing was my family. Alhamdulillah, now my family is awesome. They're supportive. They participated in my Muslim marriage. They're like totally cool with the hijab, everything. But at the time, it was really hard, especially because I think Hindus and Muslims have historically not been very good friends, and I think that sort of resentment has carried on throughout the generations. Especially with my parents' generation, it's still prevalent. For sure, they thought it was just a phase. They thought I was doing it because of somebody. They thought all these sorts of things. And it was really hard in the beginning. Like, I remember having to tie my hijab in the garage before I went to work. And of course, like, my mom knew I was wearing a hijab out because, like, people would see me and stuff. And there was a point where me and my parents were in a really bad position simply because they did not want me to be Muslim. They didn't understand. Of all the things I could have become, Muslim was one of the worst. And they just didn't understand it. They didn't understand why I wanted to do it. And it was really, and I didn't react in a very good way either. I was very, like, stubborn, very, like, non-communicative. And I think that just kind of made the situation worse. So, I mean, I think one of the biggest problems was the hijab because, I mean, once you wear hijab, it's very visible. And in society, it's very hard to explain to people why your daughter is wearing a headscarf. I understand. And I think at the time, I didn't really understand their perspective as much. I was kind of very, like, stubborn, like I said. But alhamdulillah, now my parents are great. It's been probably about 4 to 5 years since I've been Muslim-ish. And, like, I married a Shia man, and, like, they got along with my husband's family. We had a completely Muslim wedding, and I mean, they're just so understanding. My mom buys halal meat now, and stuff like that. And I know I get a lot of messages from converts who are like 16 years old, who are much younger than I was, and maybe who aren't working and supporting themselves financially. And they're like, well, I don't know what to do. My parents are like very against it. They're going to kick me out if they find out I'm Muslim. And it's hard. I understand. It's very hard. People don't understand how much converts have to go to, like praying in the closet so their parents don't find them, tying their hijab outside of the house. The whole concept of not eating like pork if you're from a family who eats like pork or drinks alcohol, like go family gatherings, like it's very hard. And my advice to you is just stay strong. If you have to, like once again, Islam, doesn't want to put you in danger. So respect your parents. Always respect your parents. But if they disobey Allah, you're allowed to disobey them. So you don't have to force yourself to be in situations where people are drinking and stuff like that. I know it's really hard in some families, but just remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you. He's keeping you strong. So inshallah it'll be easier for you. So yeah, that's about it. And then like 5 years later, here I am like a Shia Muslim still, which I think helped my parents a lot because they realized that I'm actually doing it for me. It's not like a phase. And there's so much to learn in our religion, so I'm striving every day. I wanted to start these YouTube videos because I felt like as a convert, there's a lot of things we don't get exposed to and that we struggle with that people don't talk about. And I know we have these really great TV shows like Alibait TV and stuff like that, which is a step in the right direction. But I thought if there's something I could do to have a resource for converts, then that would be great. So, yeah, that's kind of my convert story. I know it's not very exciting, like nothing revolutionary happened or anything like that, but I did go directly from Hindu to Shia. I didn't even consider Sunni Islam, to be honest, once I found out what actually had happened and what the differences were. The thing I love about Islam is how it's so holistic and how the akhlaq is like the primary thing. And I feel like born Shia Muslims don't realize what they have. Like they have the answer to live a fulfilling and happy life. They have the answers from birth. They have all the tools they need. I'm not saying in all cases, but they have all the tools they need. They can wear hijab if they want in their house most of the time. They learn how to pray. They're exposed to a mosque environment. They learn the du'as because they hear them from when they're young. like it's so hard for me to, it was so hard to learn how to pray. It's still so hard for me to, even small du'as, like after the Jummah prayer, I don't know those off by heart. And like it's very hard for me to sit and learn in a language that isn't mine. So the struggle is a little bit more. There's so much to know. Even the fiqh, when you convert to Shia Islam, like just knowing that, okay, you can't eat, this is najis. Like I had a puppy, I had to get rid of my puppy when I converted because it was najis. And so there's a lot of things, fiqh wise, even like doing ghusl, how to do wudu, that we have to teach ourselves, even tying hijab, how to teach ourselves. So it's definitely hard, and now when I think back of it, it's kind of a blur, so it's really hard for me to talk about. But I thought, inshallah, I would give you a little bit of insight into what made me choose to be Shia, and alhamdulillah, I haven't regretted it any day since then. Like, it is hard some days, but it's hard for everybody. And I think it's very important that as a convert, as for you, born Muslims, to go out there and spread the message, to interact with non-Muslims, to show them through your akhlaq kind of who you are as Muslims, because that's what's going to draw them in. That's what drew me in. It was people. If I didn't have people who were Shia around me, I probably wouldn't be Shia today. So it's really important. And yeah, so that's about it, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I'm sorry if it wasn't too inspiring, but that's my convert story, kind of where I came from. Now, alhamdulillah, I'm living in the States. I'm married to someone really awesome. I have this huge Shia family, which I really wanted for a really long time, and they're all amazing. So, I mean, like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will look after you if you're a convert. Don't worry. And inshallah, He'll ease everything that you're going through. So, thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, Assalamu alaikum and Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.